In my life, there have been struggles. Yes, these eyes have witnessed pain. So many times I've been close to destruction, and this troublesome world has thrown me away. But as I walk through the valley of shadows, as I run through fire and flames, I hear...
Hello, my name is Ali Fadhil. I am an Islamic Nasheed reciter. I recite both in a traditional form of Shia recitations as well as the more modern form of melodies and recitations. In any case, I was invited to go as part of a team to attend a charity fundraiser for a youth group called AMY, Australian Muslim Youth. The person that I accompanied there was the filmmaker Reza Vadadi, who directed a film about the ziyarah of the Imams in Iraq, and the film is called Cities of Light. In brief, the film follows three different individuals from the West who embark on this journey towards Iraq and visiting the different shrines of Iraq, the shrines associated with the Holy 12 Imams. So what it is, we wanted to introduce the concept of ziyarah and the inspiration of ziyarah to the youths in Australia. So the undertones of the trip was to really sow the seed, so to speak, of ziyarah within the hearts of the Australian youth. So for them, what we really wanted to do was give them a taster of ziyarah from three individuals who they can relate to. Because if you tell them, look, this is a journey from a man who lives in Iraq, who travels towards Basra, you know, the south of Iraq to Karbala, that's not very relatable because it's a very short journey for them. But three individuals who have to travel far and wide to go to Iraq and to sacrifice everything they can to go to Iraq and visit the Imams, the youths over there can relate to that because it's something where there are commonalities between them. Well, number one, financially it's a burden for any youth traveling towards Iraq. Number two, the obstacle of time and work and whatever and family. So like I said, the undertones of our trip towards Australia is to really give them a first-hand account of what it means to go to ziyarah.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Hussein, and we're going to have a fundraising event tomorrow with the Australian Muslim Youth. Just a rundown of the event, we're going to have Alhamdulillah Quran, and we're going to have the screening of the Cities of Light documentary. Inshallah, after that, we're going to have, we have auctions and raffles, and we have a performance by Brother Ali Fadhil, who's came all the way from Britain. Alhamdulillah, and he's gonna do some recitations, English and Arabic. Now the good thing is that this is not just a fundraiser, it's just to get the youth inspired to go visit Ahlul Bayt. And we know, if you go and visit Ahlul Bayt, you'll just naturally become wiser, become more attached to religion, alhamdulillah. So the Australian Muslim Youth is a youth organisation by youth for youth, and we just try to get the youth into the religion through different ways, not traditional means. So for example, we do Islamic Awareness Day where we hand out roses and water for the Arba'in of Imam Hussein, and we go and feed the homeless in the city. We had an event where we did it over 2 months for twice a week for 2 months. And other ways through these fundraisers, through Brother Ali Fadhil, who does very well with the youth, alhamdulillah. So he connects with them, and that's pretty much our aim.
So we're currently at the venue, the Bellevue in Sydney, doing a quick sound check, which is important because when you have functions like this with 200-300 people, if you don't do the appropriate checks beforehand. You need to ensure everything's up and running. You might have issues on the night. So alhamdulillah, preparations are in check. It's going well. And yeah, looking forward to tomorrow. Venue's stunning. I can envisage a very enjoyable and fun and productive night tomorrow night, inshallah.
So we arrived in Australia, and for me it was a very new experience because I've never been to Australia before. I didn't know who was going to receive us. I didn't know was there going to be a group of guys who we can get along with. Everything was, I've literally just closed my eyes and gone to Australia, hope for the best. But alhamdulillah, when we did arrive, and I'll talk about this later on, in terms of the AMI youth, very receptive, very comfortable, very warm welcome. There was a deep sense of camaraderie. So there's a deep sense of brotherhood between them, and it's something which us three, the team that we went there, connected with them, as soon as we arrived, within the first hours. So for me, there was a lot of hype built up, and people were telling me, people are here to see, here to see you recite, and they're here to see the film, and there's a lot of expectations on your shoulders. So for me, it was a huge responsibility. Number one, because I wanted to achieve my milestone of introducing the new concept. Number two, to fulfill the expectations. At the end of the day, people are coming here, paid money to see these recitations. You've got to fulfill that. You've got to give them 125%. You understand? So for me, it was very nerve-wracking. And I've been to huge conferences before, and I've been very nervous before. But this one is because geographically it's far away. I mean, the amount of money people spent in getting us there. It was a huge responsibility. So for me, it was I was very nervous.
Very good sound system. Okay, so we landed in Sydney on Wednesday morning, which is yesterday morning. Jet lag is ripping our bodies apart, but there's no time to worry about that. Right now, we are at the venue which will hold the fundraiser tomorrow, featuring the Cities of Light documentary and recitations, as well as a keynote speaker, and obviously the auction. I'm feeling a bit nervous because there's a lot of expectations on my shoulders to deliver and perform, but hopefully it's a challenge that I'll rise up to, because I've been in this situation before, and it's game time now. So hopefully make a difference, inshallah, make a difference to this community by really inspiring them, predominantly to yearn the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That's the bottom line, is to yearn the ziyarah for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So hopefully through the documentary, through the recitations, and through the fundraiser, we'll get their hearts pumping towards going to ziyarah, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, I practiced everything beforehand. I did all my trials, I did all my testing, sound test was successful. So I'm always very apprehensive when I go to different countries, because I need a day or two or three to get used to the environment there. Number one, we had jet lag. And when I say jet lag, I'm talking about 12-hour difference of jet lag. So I had to get over that. Number two, it was sunny. And for me, sunny and sun spells hay fever. And I've got quite deep hay fever. So alhamdulillah, when I got there wasn't much grass and stuff around, so I was okay on that side.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, tonight we're able to join the brothers and sisters of the Sunni community in supplication and prayer for Dua Kumail. I think at one of the Islamic centers in Preston, so I'm looking forward to that, inshallah. Should be good. Should be spiritually moving and charged.
كيف احوالك؟ اهلا وسهلا، خير مقدم، كيف احوالكم؟ كيف صحتكم؟ نلتقي بعد سنتين او 3 سنوات.
To welcome Brother Ali Fadhil to enlighten us with a beautiful recitation, especially for our Dua Kumail group. Please welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So the night before the event, I was invited, or the team was invited, to attend a Dua Kumail session, upon which there was a mini lecture by Sheikh Jihad Ismail, and after that was the salah, the Maghrib salah, and then after that was the Dua Kumail recitations. And again, I thought to myself, well, I could do your bog standard dua, use as much of a nice voice as I can to get people really connected with the dua. But then I thought, well, hold on, the majority, if not all of them, understand English. And all of them want to connect to Dua Kumail. That's the reason why they're there, to hear the recitations of Dua Kumail. So I thought, hold on, and there are special words, what I call bingo lines within the dua, where each and every person has their own special relationship with. So be it the beginning, or be it the middle, there's certain words and certain sentences that people really connect with. So I thought these sentences, which are the bingo lines, where people are really connected with, if I do them in English, put a voice to it, it adds to the connection, because people are not only understanding the English, the Arabic, but they're understanding the words that they're reciting. It's not just a parrot or lip service, just, you know, no, it's more of, again, another dimension, adding another dimension to the recitation, to the dua. So what I did was I did a short piece of poetry before the dua. I did the dua in Arabic, all of it was in Arabic, but there were certain places where I stopped, and I would do it in English as well, to get people more connected with the dua. And again, for me, it was a very a good experience, because it's something creative, it's something new, by which we can get more people to connect with these du'as.
أنا تابع لأولي العلا والسؤدد فهم ملاذي في الحياة ومسندي. أنا تابع لأولي العلا والسؤدد فهم ملاذي في الحياة ومسندي. يا من أتاني سائلا يا من أتاني سائلا عن مذهبي.
You see, the fascinating thing about Shia Islam, and especially the fascinating thing about the Imams themselves, is that not only are they a guide, but how are they a guide? We always hear people say, you know, the Imams are a guide to salvation, and so on and so forth, but technically, how are they guides? What exactly did they leave? What exactly did they do for you to really take into your life, for them to guide you towards the right path? One of the legacies that they left is the performance of a dua. You're calling out towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're asking Him for help, and you're asking Him for salvation, and you're asking Him for guidance. Now, you can say it in a normal voice, you can say it in your own language. Oh Allah, please help me in so and so, or oh Allah, please, yeah. But then what the Imams have done is they've left books and books of ready-made sentences in which you can use to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, it's your language, it's the way, it's the vehicle upon which you can reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the importance of du'as.
With my wails and cries, Karbala. And finally opposite me, your pure shrine lies. All my life I've lived, now I meet with my demise. Karbala, I live my life and what I had been. I come to you with all my cries and sins. I don't care, oh forgive her. Now I'm here in Karbala. Oh my Lord, whom can I ask beside you to remove my afflictions and to look into my affairs? Ilahi wa Rabbi, man li ghayruk, man li ghayruk. a beautiful embrace on the day when all is lost in the fire and the flames. We found.
So I felt confident about myself, I felt confident about my voice, and I thought I'm just going to go up there and enjoy it. People are there to enjoy the event, so I'm going to give them something to enjoy. So I was very nervous before the event, but alhamdulillah, when I did get there, and for me, when I do just get up on stage, everything sort of shuts off. I shut off everything which can have a hindrance on my performance. It's very difficult to do, especially because half your mind is thinking, you know, people are here, they're going to judge you, it's a new place, you know, your first words have to be very precise, your first words have to, you know, your first recitation has to be very clear, very pure. So half your mind is thinking about that, and the other half of your mind is thinking the words, don't forget the words, you know, don't forget your script, don't forget the story, don't forget to recite properly. So your mind is just it's a swirl of emotions, and it's a swirl of different thoughts. But you have to really just blank it all out and say, look, I've done my practicing, the people are here to enjoy themselves, give them something to enjoy. If they judge you, you've done your best. If you've given 100%, you've given 100%. If you haven't given 100% and people say, they catch you out for it, then that's your fault. So I blocked everything out, went up on stage, and I gave 110%. So I felt as you know, a minute into it, 2-3 minutes into the performances, you feel very more comfortable. If you feel at home, you're comfortable with the mic, with the sounds of the mic, the levels of the mic, how much you can hear. Within the first 5 minutes, you're comfortable with that. So then the rest of the 40 minutes was a doddle, because it's just a replica of what you've done before. So it's very comfortable for me.
Don't leave me, 'cause maybe I won't get to see you again. It hurts me to think that this could be goodbye, my old friend. For many, many years, you gave me reasons to keep looking within. You bruise me, but leave me more in love with the one that was sent to take me higher, away from desire. And I spent 10 nights in grief. I'm hoping for peace, but I don't want to sleep. And when I close my eyes, Karbala, your land is in my mind, and I can't stop these tears. No, I won't find peace tonight. This fire in my heart won't die, and even in my dreams I cry.
I wanted to introduce this new form of recitations. Now, this new form of recitations, what it includes, in very briefly, it includes the introduction of background choruses and background hummings and background echoes within the recitation. So what I would do is I would play a track which includes hummings and which includes background voices and background noises. I would play the track and then I would do a voiceover for this track. So what people will be getting out of that is a new form of recitations, because for the last 7 or 8 years, the only form of recitations was very one-dimensional. Voice, recipient, melody, recipient, very one-dimensional. I would have to, as a reciter, be able to really cement the traditional form of poetry and recite it in a melody form, very one-dimensional. What I wanted to do was introduce another dimension to the recitations by which background voices and echoes and hummings were then introduced. So people subconsciously hear the background stuff as well as hearing my voice. So that was what I wanted to introduce. And I know that there was a need for this, because most of the youth, look, I've been doing this for about 7-8 years now, and for me it's all about creating new ways in which we can engage the youth. You can always do the normal traditional forms, but that sometimes get repetitive and it gets a bit tedious. And most of the youth, they always want the latest trends and they always want the latest stuff. So what we're trying to do is we're creating a new form so that the youth can engage.
In my life, there have been struggles. Yes, these eyes have witnessed pain. So many times I've been close to destruction, and this troublesome world has thrown me away. But as I walk through the valley of shadows, as I run through fire and flames, I hear a voice whisper sweet songs of freedom, and I feel stronger than I did yesterday. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein. And I remember the tears of the children, burning hearts and brothers pure. All I see are visions of murder, a falling flag, a lion's roar, and all I hear are sweet songs of freedom.
Initially, this idea of introducing background hummings and choruses and echoes, it started in Dearborn last year when I was there for the conference, the conference of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, I introduced some sort of humming. It was very, very low tone, but it was just an introduction to gauge the audience, see how they feel about this second dimension of recitations. It was a huge success. I replicated the same thing in Tanzania. In Africa, again, a huge success. I did the same thing again in Muharram. Now this way, what I did was I introduced a latmiya in the background. So it wasn't a nasheed chorus or humming. It was a fully fledged latmiya, the track. So again, I've been doing it for the last year 3 or 4 times, but I wanted to solidify this concept by means of a story. So my latest album is called Beautiful Embrace. Now, Beautiful Embrace encompasses struggles, complications, trials, tribulations, hearing the voice of Hussein calling you, understanding what happened in Karbala, the story of Abbas and Hussein alayhi salam, the story of the younger Fatima who was left in Medina, and the story of Tafl al-Radhiya. All 3 of them have their own individual tracks. So number 1, trials and tribulations, the voice of Hussein calling you towards Karbala. The 3 trials, the 3 tragedies of Karbala, which I pinpointed in the album. And the last one is called The Beautiful Embrace. So once you've taken in the tragedy and your own personal life and your own complications and your own trials and tribulations, you take that and then you finally embrace Imam Hussein alayhi salam when you arrive in Karbala. That's the whole point of the album. Now what I wanted to do, because of the fact that there's a beautiful embrace at the end of the album, I wanted to introduce a story form for my audience. So what I did was I come up with a story with the help of Reza John Vidadi. We came up with this story by means of a man who lives in the West, very wealthy. I'll give you quite brief. There's loads of details to it, but it's very brief. A man who lives in the West, very wealthy, not very religious. His mum passes away, but before she passes away, she tells him that I want you to visit Imam Hussein alayhi salam at least once in your life. So he says, no problem, okay, I'll try and do that. She passes away. He's gone through a trial, the trial of his mum passing away. So he's very downhearted, he's very depressed, and it's a tragedy for him. So he says, okay, I'm going to fulfill the wish of my mother and travel towards Iraq. When he does travel towards Iraq, before he does, I play the first track of Songs of Freedom, upon which the track is talking about trials and tribulations, by hearing the voice of Hussein, the soothing voice of Hussein calling you towards Karbala. So then the second part of the story is that he wants to go to Iraq, but he wants to learn more about this tragedy. What happened? What are the details? You know, who passed away? Who didn't? Who got martyred? The story of Karbala in itself. So he stumbles across this young girl who was called Fatima, who was the daughter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but she was very ill, and she couldn't travel to Karbala with her father. He gets very emotionally attached to the story, and so what he does, he recites the second track within the album. Okay, so it's all story, recitation, story, recitation, story, recitation. So then what he does is he then travels to Iraq, again, more trials and tribulations, losing his wallet, trying to walk to Imam Hussein, there was no hotel, whatever, and then he finally just lets go of everything and embraces the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So that was the beautiful embrace. So all of the trials and tribulations in a story mode. So the whole album, so again, the reason why we're there is to introduce ziyarah. So the album and the story was about ziyarah and really connecting Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the beautiful embrace. Once you did have that beautiful embrace, you then learn from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you learn from the tragedy, you seek intellectual nourishment from the tragedy, and that should, in essence, take you higher and higher as a human being. So we ended with the track Higher.
Yes, yesterday we finished the event in Sydney, the fundraising event. It was quite a phenomenal event actually, because it was the first time this kind of event was organised here in Sydney, whereby there was a documentary and then recitations. The Cities of Light documentary was received very well. A lot of the people were interested, and the undertones of the whole event, and that is the inspiration of ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, was also received very well. People were inspired. People had another look on ziyarah, another angle of ziyarah, not what they're usually accustomed to, because the documentary gives you a view from 3 different people. So people were very interested in the documentary. Me personally, I had quite an enjoyable night, because I managed to do something new with chorus and vocals in the background, as well as reciting over. So it was received very well. I love the audience, they're very interactive. But hopefully now we're looking forward to Melbourne, which we're actually at the airport now. We're looking forward to Melbourne. Again, it's going to be the same kind of program, whereby we're airing the documentary and there's recitations after. So we've heard some good reviews about Melbourne audience, so hopefully that should be a good event to go to, inshallah. How we look?
Jetstar to Melbourne. 56 go to gate. Bloody hell, where did you check?
Immediately after our event in Sydney, we had to travel the same night, as a couple of hours after that, we had to travel to Melbourne. It was about an hour and a half, I think an hour and a half or 2 hour flight towards Melbourne. The city is quite different in terms of it's much more historical, apparently, and it's much more traditional. But in terms of the event there, you see the difference between the Sydney event and the Melbourne event. The Sydney event was like a fundraising gala dinner. So you had your tables, you had the decorations, you had the stage, and you had the curtains, and you had the lighting, and you had the mic system. It was very much a gala dinner kind of form. The event in Melbourne was more of it's more of a cinema kind of atmosphere, because you didn't have the stage, you didn't have the round tables, you didn't have the lighting and the mics and stuff like that. It was more of a whole hall of chairs in a cinema format, so rows of chairs. People come in, they look at the film, they view the film, and they can take what they want from the film. Likewise with the recitations, I couldn't really introduce the whole background choruses and vocals and hummings, because it wasn't really the atmosphere for it. So what I did was I did the normal traditional recitations, but again I emphasized on the importance of ziyarah and connecting to Imam Hussein alayhi salam and connecting to the Imams by visiting them personally, visiting them physically.
In you I am so sure, and to you I turn. I am missing your scent Wishing to you I once forgot you I haven't, and I never will. I live my life longing to visit your Hussein, Karbala, and I will know.
Of course, we want to thank Brother Musaddiq, who organised the event, and the thing is, for him it was more of an emphasis on really creating this love or this yearning to go towards Imam Hussein salam, because he tries his utmost best to organise trips and organise ziyarah groups to attend Iraq and to travel to Iraq, and it's very difficult again because of the geographical nature of Australia and how expensive it is. It's very difficult to get people to really charged up and inspired to go to ziyarah. So our main objective was to instill this love to go to visit Imam Hussein salam and visit the holy Imams of Iraq. And so yeah, hats off to Brother Musaddiq who organised that event. Thank you.
What's your favourite part now?
What's my most favourite part of Australia?
Yeah.
It's the sun. It's the heat.
The sun, really?
It's the warmth.
Yeah.
Because
Europe's like 9 months in winter or something.
Europe has a lot of winter, and we just left 2 degrees of London. So you can understand how much we are.
So you packed for winter, not summer?
No, I packed for summer.
Summer.
Yeah, for summer.
Yeah.
And I've always been fascinated as to how the background of a radio station is, in terms of the mics, in terms of the headphones, in terms of technically how it works. I've always been fascinated, and I've always had this passion to be on a radio station, to speak on a radio station. So when the opportunity came up for me, it was something which I took with 2 hands. Regardless of the topics, regardless of how difficult it may be, I wanted to be there. So we had that opportunity in Australia, in Sydney. There's a group who've been running this radio station for quite a number of years, and they due to the funding, they can only go on national radio during Muharram and Ramadan, because that's the amount they can fund airtime basically. Other than that, they're mostly online. And they have a good following. I think it's about 3,000 or 4,000 people that check their or even listen to their radio station on a weekly basis. So it was a ready-made radio station for me to fulfill this passion that I have for radio. So the radio was called Radio Ahl al-Bayt. He was on the minbar when he was 9 years old, and he was booed off the stage, let's just say. This is a very sensitive subject, because most of the time when youths want the opportunity to recite, I blame the organisers for giving them that opportunity in mosques when they're not ready. So that was the in-depth interview without the radio facilities, and then we went into a live 1-hour show, and we talked about different topics, but mainly our main topic was about ziyarah, and specifically about the ziyarah of Arba'een, the 40th of Imam Hussein salam. I've been alhamdulillah, I've been to Karbala during the Arba'een season. Filmmaker Reza Fadhil as well was there on the radio station talking about his experiences from a filmmaking point of view, and I talked about my experiences from a reciting point of view. So that's what we talked about, the undertones of why we were there in the first place. So wherever we went, we more or less talked about the importance of ziyarah and the importance of visiting Imam Hussein salam, and that's what we did in the radio station. We talked about visiting Imam Hussein salam in depth. And it was a very loud explosion at the time. But at that moment, time sort of stopped for a second, just 1 second, because immediately in front of me, I was watching the procession going past, and it was a procession of reenactments. So you get the horses, you get the sabaya, you get the captives, you get the sort of the Yazids and the heads on the spears and everything. Yeah. So, but then there was a rush of people running away from the explosion. The rush of people were coming towards the procession. At this moment in time, the procession found or saw that there was at least 1,000 people running towards them. It was going to be a stampede, because you couldn't get the horses out of the way, you couldn't get the procession out of the way. So there was a huge amount of people running towards the procession. Immediately there and then, one of the main organisers for the procession called for the drummers to start drumming. So they started to drum, excuse me, they start to drum to the beat of Abad Wallah Ya Zahra Ma Nansa Hussein. So immediately you heard there was just suddenly a silence, and then the drum started to drum, and then all you hear was Abad Wallah Ya Zahra Ma Nansa. So then the whole procession changed from panic and fear to pledging of allegiance to Hussein. Immediately, straight after the explosion. After that, they changed it to Labbaik Ya Hussein. So it's Labbaik Ya Hussein. So
and you saw that?
I saw that right in front of my eyes. I was very, very scared, I'll be honest, because it's the first time I experienced that. But immediately that fear was transferred into real passion and a real defiance against those who commit those atrocities. So no matter how much you try to bomb us, or no matter how much you try to put fear into our hearts, at the end of the day, we're still going to be screaming Labbaik Ya Hussein.
So it was a good experience. I talked about my history and recitations, and filmmaker Reza Vidadi also talked about his filmmaking experience. So it was a very good experience to be on a radio station. I recited a bit as well. It was nice. The boys are very welcoming. They're very bubbly, very ambitious. They want to get this channel, aired across internationally, across Australia. So it's a good experience. Very good experience. Thank you.
كيف أوصف نوعك مولاي روحي وموجتي لك كيف أوصف نوعك أفهل.
So I was given the opportunity to visit Belfield School in Sydney, and when I went there, again we were received very well. I gave a talk about the importance of recitations and the nitty-gritty details of recitations. The methods of reciting, why we recite in certain form, the difference between commemoration and spreading the message of the Ahlul Bayt. Very important topics which I addressed in the small talk, and then I gave them a rendition of what I mean. So there's a theory and practice. So I gave them a rendition of recitations. I got them involved through interactive means of clapping, and they also recited with me as well. So we really achieved a sense of joy and inspiration behind recitations. So much so that the school actually contacted us later on and said that they're even considering recitations within the curriculum, which is again something which is a milestone for myself, because if we can work with the youth, we can work with schools actually, and teach them the importance of recitations, because recitations hold a very, very important and fundamental aspect of Shia Islam, because it started all the way from the Prophet, all the way from the Imams. Not recitation in what you see in the form, in the sense now, but using your voice to beautify the message of Islam, and using your voice to beautify the message of the Ahlul Bayt. That's always been prevalent within the Ahlul Bayt, and has always been prevalent within our traditions. So it's something fundamental which we have to teach our kids to at least understand the importance of recitations, and most of them are inspired to recite. They know reciters from left, right and centre. They want to recite. So these schools can really give them that opportunity and that platform to be able to express themselves through the form of recitations, and not any other form, any unlawful form, or any form which will take them astray. But recitations is a form which they can really release that deep passion they have for reciting, for using their voice, for melodies, for clapping, for voices, whatever. So they can really. So the school contacted us and told us that that recitations may be something which they can include in the curriculum, which is a great step and a great sense of achievement for us. It's been an amazing 2 days. I've already seen the brothers that have they've looked after us for the past 2 days, and I can see there's a special brotherhood and sisterhood between the community, which is very good to see, especially in this day and age where our madhab, Islam actually in general, is being infiltrated. But hopefully the spirit of Karbala and the spirit of the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam during any time of the year can really create these bonds between the brothers and sisters in order to progress as a community. Because of the fact that we were received so well by this group, Amy, who have just started, by the way. They've just started about a year and a half ago, really creating programs and being committed to the youth and creating programs upon which they can get the youth off the streets and into the centres, let's just say, and onto the straight path of the Ahlul Bayt. So the youth there, they're a mixture of brothers and sisters, and mostly brothers that, when I do say brothers, I actually mean brothers. So there's a sense of loyalty amongst them, and we reciprocated that loyalty and that friendship and that warmth feeling that we had between ourselves. It was the first time I really introduced a story form of recitations, as well as introducing the background hummings and the choruses and the vocals. It's a precedent that I want to carry on, and hopefully, due to the good work of the filmmaker Reza John Vidadi, who was there, he managed to film everything, because obviously I don't want to be speaking to myself when I'm there. We need the initiatives to be filmed and to be recorded, so that we can put it on YouTube or whatever, different platforms, so that people can see that there is this form of recitation, so that the youngsters can see this form of recitations and they can interact with that, because it's something which is close to them. It's something which they can interact with. It's not something which is quite alien to them.
Alhamdulillah, we've come to the end of another very successful tour. We've done a few tours around the world, but this is the first time for us to be in the wonderful country that is Australia. Alhamdulillah, we had a variety of programs, from your run-of-the-mill recitation, performance events, and then we had school events, school visits and poetry workshops. We had film screenings. It was a magnitude of all different kinds of events into a very short space of time. Alhamdulillah, shukr, there was a plethora of very kind hearts and very warm people. What I will say is that the Australian community is one of the most aspiring and one of the most diverse communities we've seen, but nevertheless they have that tayyiba, that kindness and warmness that we've seen that's been so transient throughout the whole of our trip. Alhamdulillah, it was very busy, quite tiring actually. Early morning starts and late evenings, but that's all part of the package. We know what we'll get ourselves into when we come on these kind of trips. The community is very diverse. You've got your Lebanese, which they call here Lebo. You've got your Iraqis, you've got your Yemenis, you've got a massive range of different kind of backgrounds. And alhamdulillah, they all were able to come together and unite as one, to be able to be a strong unit within the community and within society at large. A massive thank you to Amy, Australian Muslim Youth, for getting us out here. Another massive thank you to Haji Zubayda, who helped us with logistics and making it all happen. Thank you to everyone that was involved, and inshallah we'll be back in Australia pretty soon. Until next time.
So essentially we came here with a purpose. So the undertones of why we're here is to really create a yearning for ziyarah of the 14 infallibles, to really get out of this day and age, get out of the modern society that you live in. So essentially what we came here for, and that's the undertones of the message that we wanted to give to the Australian people here, to the Australian community, the Shia community here, is the importance of ziyarah. And I believe from the feedback that we got, the message was crystal clear. Leave what you have, make time for the Ahlul Bayt, because there's a difference between theoretically learning about the Ahlul Bayt, theoretically learning in books and articles and listening to lectures, and physically being within the vicinity of the Imams, especially in Iraq, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. To be in the vicinity of them, you learn so much more. Your time is concentrated on learning about these 14 infallibles. You're physically connecting with these infallibles. So that's physically, you have to go and spend from what you have and visit the shrines of the Ahlul Bayt.
So I wanna be here in London, do different performances here and there, just to get myself more equipped with this form of recitation, and then travel there and really solidify what messages that we initially taught, or what we initially gave them, and that is predominantly to interact with the Ahlul Bayt. Not in your usual form, because you can interact with the Ahlul Bayt through lectures, through radio, through magazines, through articles, through the internet, through social media, but there's also this very, very important recitation mode of interacting with the Ahlul Bayt. And that's really to create joy and inspiration within the performances. And that's what I felt that we achieved, and I really want to solidify that, so that people, when they leave, when they come to these performances and when they leave, they feel inspired. They feel inspired to maybe make a change, feel inspired to possibly get into the recitations. So it was a very, very good experience, and that's the reason why I would come again, to really solidify things.
So it's been a all-round trip. I enjoyed myself here with the activities that you can do in Sydney. So, you know, with that, I'd like to sign off by saying thank you to all of the viewers who took their time to really give us that opportunity. And of course, don't forget to really embrace Karbala beautifully. Look at the beautiful nature of Karbala. Not just the sad nature of Karbala, not just the tragedy of Karbala. But when Sayyidah Zainab did say, when Yazid asked her, look what I have done with your brother, what do you call, or how would you describe what I've done with your brother? She said, I see nothing but beauty. And the beauty of the tragedy of Karbala is something that we can connect with. So I can sign off by saying, embrace the Ahlul Bayt and embrace the tragedy of Karbala beautifully.
That stranger, listen to the footsteps run underneath the burning sun. I'm hoping he's no danger.